Welcome back, everybody, to another terrifying episode of Comics Della Morte, episode 50, How to Write a Scary Story, or a Horror Story. My bad, horror story. Yes, 50. We're halfway to 100.
Doing it, Ronnie. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great. And, of course, you got me, Crimson Owl Comics, Ronnie Gunter, my co-host, Frogbreaker Studios, Jason Alexander, and of course, before we're going to get in the topic, Jason, promote what you got going on.
Shit, y'all know, like, first and foremost, I got mini comics, y'all. I got mini comics in my hand, and with volume 10, like, the horror is back in a big, big way, guys. We got 3 books. Before I do the screen share thing, I want to show y'all so you can see, like, the size of the books. Like, we're 10 months in. I can't believe it's been that long. But we got Jagged Edges, which is a one-shot horror story. Really, really, I don't know.
I love the front cover.
Thanks, man.
Me
like
Exorcist vibes.
You know, as usual, like Aaron's artwork through and through is just like mini comics. Like Predictive Text is a 3-part horror story. For now, I'll say it's psychological horror, but we'll see how it ends up. And then Drifter, already, like, I have a lot to say. I'm not going to do it right now, but I have a lot to say about Drifter. When I wrote it after knowing, like, that, you know, Aaron's Kung Fu was Aaron's shit, and I knew that we were going to finish the whole book with it. I wanted to write something. What's up, Gary? I wanted to write something that was
Gary.
I almost wanted to write something that was kind of like just showing gratitude for Aaron for taking a shot on me. And
yeah,
I'm loving the story so far. Like I feel like it's really, really special. I hope Aaron likes it too, like as much as it looks like he does. Like, just looking at the artwork, it looks like he does. And, you know, we're always going to say, yep, it's cool because it's something that we're producing. But,
yeah,
you know, it's just, he didn't have to let me write these minis. Like, this was a huge experience. And, like, as we're getting closer to the end, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's bittersweet, but it's a lot to look back on. And it kind of gave me a lot of confidence to just know that I'll be fine. Like if I want to write, and even if I want to make comics, like I'll be fine. Like this has been a huge experience for me, and to work with somebody of Aaron's caliber on a long-term project. Hey Chase, how's it going, man?
Hey Chase, what's up?
It's been a privilege. Like to draw with to work with somebody who can draw the way that Aaron does my words is pretty special. And I'm almost done, but I'm gonna get the screen share right. I just want to share the site real quick, Ronnie. Give me 2 seconds.
No problem.
But so you go here. All right, I'm sharing the screen now. Now I know I am. So this is what it's been. This is what it is. This number has dwindled significantly, but we started the whole campaign with 250 copies of each book. So once they're gone, they're gone. And if you have them, I would consider yourself to be very fortunate. But if you get the whole year, which that's going to be pretty much all that's left here soon. If you get the whole year, you get year 2019. You get webcomics like The Briefing that's coming out. Man, like that's a very, very fun story, and it's directly connected to The Liaison, which just wrapped up last month. So you get those. You got this month, you got The Drifter, which is our, mystical kung fu story that is going to see the end of the mini comics physical run. We got Jagged Edges, which is a one-shot psychological horror, and then we got Predictive Text, which right now looks like a murder mystery is afoot.
Murder mysteries are
But
great.
yeah, like I said, it's a fun little junk, but it wraps up in 3 issues, so it'll have a pretty fun ending. I think y'all will dig it. But minicomicbundles.com. I'm also working on a wrestling comic book that is going to be inspired by Limitless Wrestling, which is the local wrestling company up here. So I'm posting stuff for that on my Instagram. I also have a full size but short comic story that I think I might just put on Instagram. But if I can stick enough other things with it, I might release a little, maybe a little book to get to print and see what it all looks like together. So stay tuned for all of that. But comics take a while to do, especially when you're working a 9 to 5. So we get in where we fit in. That's what I got, Ronnie. Fallbreaker Studios, minicomicbundles.com. Thank y'all. It's very cool to be supported when you're doing something you really, really enjoy. So I appreciate all the support.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And me, as always, go to Tapas and support and read my comic. I mean,
yes, A
my
Vengeful
friends talk
Heart.
about it. A Vengeful Heart. Episode 3 is taking a little bit longer, but Gary has seen the recent page layout. Jason has seen the recent page layout. I'm having fun with it, but of course, I'm just working my way through because, with my health issues, and not just that, but I work 4 a.m. to 1. So
Nope.
a lot of times, once I shower and go home, I'm falling asleep by 2 o'clock, and there are times that I'm not waking up until like close to midnight. That's just
Wow.
my body's just that exhausted, and I need
Yeah.
to get sleep. I mean, but
Yeah, we're not all machines, so it's like
yeah.
you got to get it all in.
Mm-hmm. But Gary says he can't wait. Let me see if I could pull up the picture. Let's see. Work.
But no, so you got anything else you're working on other than? Oh yeah, I see it, Ronnie.
Yeah, right there, guys. Just doing a little action sequence with the vampire. I mean, I'm not going to go too much in detail about what's going on, but you've got a pretty good idea there. Like there's a woman, then you see someone getting ready to kill her, then a vampire leaps out to save the woman and gets ready to bite her. I love
Ronnie. Red just pops. That's so
exactly,
good, man.
Exactly.
That red just pops off the page, man. That's dope.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But I just love finding ways to tell the story. And sometimes the thing is that when you have, a limited panel like you do, find ways to have a panel inside of a panel to pretty much try to find a way to tell the story without having too much detail. But there you pretty much have it where you have the vampire leaping out, and then you see the big picture of the head getting ready to bite the neck with the blood coming out. But it's just fun, Working in horror is great, and I can't get enough of it.
For me, it's the premier sandbox.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have your hero, you have the damsel in distress or the male in distress. You just you could even have your romance going on. It's just a great genre to work in because you could put other genres within it.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know. It's something that I enjoyed early, but I never
Mm-hmm.
really looked at it. I never really looked at it as easy because
Yeah.
there, we did the whole tropes video earlier. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy to slap a few of those together. And don't get me wrong, you can make something very interesting doing it because
Yeah.
there's a reason why they're tropes because they
Mm-hmm.
work. But there's another level, and I don't see it yet, but I know that it's there, and
Yeah.
that's it's like that's the fun part for me is to just kind of it helps me to kind of push the limits in a way that I never thought that horror would be it. I
Mm-hmm.
thought suspense and Hitchcock would be about as far into like the truly scary as I wanted to get.
Yeah.
But it's like I want to get all the way there. I
Mm-hmm.
do, man. Like when you mentioned this subject tonight, I was like, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, for us
I'm
both,
into talking about that.
you,
Yeah.
you do artwork, but mostly with mini comics bundles. You do the writing, and I do the
Yep.
writing and the art. It's just one of those, you know, even for a superhero book, for superheroes, there's the basics. And I feel with the horror, it's the same way.
So here's something that's funny. Just last night I started Game of Thrones. I had never
Mhm.
watched it before. Like I'm
Never.
aware. No, I'm aware of like a few of like the big story points early, but all for in general, I know nothing about the show. And the first episode, like gripped me so well because it did
Mhm.
start out. It had a very heavy horror tone to that first episode, with them finding all the dead bodies and then them vanishing. Like I told my wife, like through that first part of that video, I'm like, as because we watched maybe 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
I was like, it's hard to take your eyes off of this television show
Yeah.
because they did the right things very right. And
Mhm.
again, it did have a lot of horror elements to it. Like the guys that fight on the wall go fight the scary things that nobody really talks about, that people don't even believe exist. And that is part of the goal is to create
Mhm.
something. Everybody wants their own Cthulhu, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Everybody wants their
Mhm.
own like horror legacy, their Pinhead, Jason Voorhees. We all want that. So, but yeah, so I guess that's that was my excitement of when you suggested the subject for tonight
Mhm.
for the 50 burger tonight. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a really good show. Yeah.
yeah, I think that was kind of how I ended up too. Like
Mhm.
I tried to start it early, but then I didn't really get into it. And then my wife really liked it. And so she pretty much watched it through and through. But yep, me either. I'm mostly through the first season of Breaking Bad, but yeah, I didn't really care to watch it when it was cool. Like I watched Walking
Yeah.
Dead, and that was enough for me back then. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I don't know where you want to officially start tonight, Ronnie.
Well, I'll just start with like these. I mean, there's so many like people giving out opinions. Me and you could literally sit down and write our own book based off of this topic. But
Absolutely,
let's start.
anybody could who does it. Yeah,
Yeah, let's start with number one: taking the time to let your reader get to know your characters. Which you could put that for any type of comic book or any type of book, but definitely for horror, I find it to be really important because especially even with Game of Thrones as big example, you you have these characters that you're building to love and to appreciate, and then the next moment they fucking die. you know,
right.
and you know that's what you want to do. You want to reel your audience in to actually gain a personal level with these characters, even if that character is just a, small character.
Right. And
And even if
here's
they're not talking enough, you're taking what they're doing in the book and you're showing that their actions are, a big part of what's going on in the story.
absolutely. To kind of piggyback off what you said about making sure you take the time to let your readers get to know your characters.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously so that they invest, so that it does matter when they, as you put it, fucking die. I think that's something that I'm having to learn is, while that is important, you do not have to do that in a linear fashion. You don't have to build these characters up. As long as you are invested and you have the ability to tell the story of why your main character is the way that they are, or what their immediate future is, you have free reign to do that. And it also allows you to kind of get your readers like sunk into the fruit, like the best part of what you're doing, because nobody wants you to hand them 6 seeds and say, this is going to be a 60-foot tree one day. It's like, no, like, take me to the redwoods. I want to see the end result, and then I'll learn about it, and then I'll appreciate it even more. So
I like what Chase is saying here. The horror genre for me kind of works similar to the mystery whodunit template in how the author withholds information and reveals it when least expected to the reader to create a jolt. Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that brings me up to the next topic, establishing the familiar. Like, where literally, like, I'll give you an example. You have the beginning of my book. One of the main characters in issue 1 is in her home. She's daydreaming about Mr. Right, and her father's coming in to offer her tea. And then we know what happens next after that happens. Like, when you start building, like, because everyone has like a familiar place that they call home and they call safe. And if you could find a way to people to relate to that area, and then bam, something bad happens and they get jolted, like Chase says, is an awesome thing to me.
Yeah, that's just kind of what I was saying earlier about horror works, because there are things that we expect from it, but the challenge is, like, how do you jolt people when we've been jolted every which way? How do you keep that twist unexpected? Like, sometimes you have to almost, you lean into the twist, but you realize that it's just more miles of road. But yeah, like, definitely, like, that's the mission. The mission is the joke. But we're kind of running into that Monsters Inc. territory now, where people ain't so easy to scare.
Right?
They think they're not so easy to scare.
And for number 3, I'll let you go off and talk about this first.
All right, what you got?
Using foreshadowing in horror. Like, how would you go about establishing that?
Okay. Always a hidden bomb under the table. Oh my God, you build up. That's exactly it. Something that I love about pro wrestling, and how I think that it equates to comics a lot, is pretty much a similar idea to what Chase is talking about. Is you introduce the table so early that everybody accepts that somebody is going through that table. You might lay somebody across the table a couple of times, but they never go through the table. And then they stay in the ring for another 10 minutes and somebody misses a dive or somebody nails a dive on the outside on that table. Like that's the payoff. So you have to you make it so obvious that it's going to happen that you almost just look at it as a piece of furniture. I think that foreshadowing is very hard with horror because it comes off cheesy sometimes. So that's where you kind of have to accept that Crypt Keeper style punny horror, which again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it doesn't have its place because a lot of it I enjoy. I even write it sometimes, but you kind of have to. It's a very delicate thing if you want it to be real because horror foreshadowing has become very predictable. Almost not in a negative way, just in the sun rises and the sun sets kind of way. If you watch a lot of horror, especially like me, like learning about it and watching a lot of it all at once.
Yeah.
It gets to the point to where you know the beat.
Don't get me wrong, those like don't get me wrong, those movies in the beginning were good, but they had a lot of foreshadowing where you kind of predicted how the person was going to die, and that would have been the Final Destination movies. Like, they had a lot of foreshadowing showing, oh, hey, this guy's doing weights, and you see the weights a couple times in the shots, and then all of a sudden the guy gets his head crushed by the weights. That's a big foreshadowing. Or even in horror movies, you have like a bunch of kids, they're playing and they're play wrestling with each other, or they're throwing stuff at each other, and then all at a house that they say, oh, that's the haunted house on that street. Nobody goes there. That's a big foreshadowing. But then you're kind of setting up to the next place on where the story's going to take place, because let's face it, a lot of horror movies, especially in Stephen King's books, takes place in a certain area.
Right. I don't want to jump too far ahead because I don't know what else you're gonna. I'll wait for you to cover a topic. So I'm good with foreshadowing, but you maybe want to say a lot of other things just now. So I'll cool it. Yes, Gary, there is a language. No, I'm good. I'll wait. I don't want to make sure we get all 8 points, but I always got stuff to say.
Well, let's talk about pacing.
All right. Yes.
He's frozen.
Pacing.
Starting to unfroze.
Okay. Yeah. Pacing. I don't know. I went first with the other one. You go first with this one, Ronnie.
Okay. Pacing. Me and Gary, Jason was just talking about it before we came onto the show. American Vampire Volume 2, we like it, but unlike Volume 1, Volume 2 has a lot of heavy dialogue where
for sure
it's really not going anywhere, and it's like, I want to see more actions and stuff. So pacing, even with any type of comic or any type of book, you have to find a good line on where all that dialogue is actually heading to somewhere that's going to be a big climax.
Yeah, you want a payoff. Yeah, it's like you
just can't have like 5 pages of dialogue and nothing happens. Especially if you're reading a horror comic, you want to see action. You just don't want to see a bunch of people talking about stuff, and then it's going back and forth during different time settings. So you don't. So it's like, okay, you're learning about what this person did in like 40 years ago, and now it's jumping back to that present time in Las Vegas, and then it jumps back to that time point 40 years ago again. So yeah, it's just pacing. It's like how me and you and Gary talked about horror cliches. you have all this suspense building up, and you think there's going to be a jump scare or something like big going to happen, and then nothing happens.
Yep. It's that infinite like roller coaster that goes up, 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 and then it just takes you on a tour of the amusement park.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to almost, I think, the first subject we were talking about, giving your character time, giving your reader time to appreciate and enjoy your character. That's what I meant, is like in pacing, you have to make sure that everybody has skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like, you have to make sure that the writers, the readers are enjoying the dialogue, but you have to make sure, with comics in particular, you have to make sure that the people that enjoy the cool pics are also enjoying what's going on. So it's always good to start with,
connection.
Yeah, no worries, man. I was just rambling about, pacing not always being 1, 2, 3. It can be, like Star Wars, 4, 5, 6. Because if we had to saw 1, 2, and 3 first, we may not have wanted to see 4, 5, and 6 at all. But 4, 5, and 6 was the best part of the cookie.
What? Well, you don't think Jar Jar Binks sold it? No.
No, I don't, honey. Writing story takes place in an hour required. Chase, that was the physical challenge of the mini comics, because they are so compressed that you have to fit. We treat these like 24-page comics, but you only have 6 pages, and maximum 2, sometimes 3 panels, but that's up to Aaron. But again, you only have so much room for art and dialogue. So
yeah,
your pacing that you're talking about is more of like a story construction. This was kind of like a physical, like, story foundation, but that was tough, because I write a lot. Like, how I talk, and so to write, like, get a few sentences or a few word bubbles on each page, it creates a new style of writing almost. But I'm always up for a good challenge. I'm always up to try to tell a good story.
I would talk about these two as like one, because they kind of play off of each other, and that'd be tapping into your reader's imagination and thinking like a child. Because when you have your imagination and when you're thinking like a child, who didn't, as a child, would be sleeping in their room and it's dark at night, and then all of a sudden there's a shadow casting on the wall and it looks like a creature, but it's just a bunch of shirts on a chair.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
When you're writing a horror story, think of ways where it's not too complex and you're actually trying to take the reader back to those times when their imagination was big and bold, and they didn't focus on all these bills and other stuff going on, and they just cared about having fun, and their imagination went wild. So if you could set up that scare or set up like that fear factor, that's great. And like, thinking as a kid, Stephen King, he does it great. Stephen King's It, a lot of his books, and other people, even R.L. Stine, look at that writer. He does a great job selling the horror, but making it relatable, where even a little kid or a teenager could pick it up and get scared, or even want to know what more is going on.
Right. Like, fear in and of itself is primal. Like
Mhm.
we got afraid of things because it was a necessity. Like
Mhm.
these are the things that we're afraid of. We're
Yeah.
afraid of like so how do you tap into that while telling your story?
Mhm.
And it's fun for me because fear is like controlled fear is escapism, like a roller coaster. Like
Yeah.
you get to go as fast and as high and as quick as you want,
Mhm.
and but you're confined to these tracks and this car in your harness. And
Mhm.
so if you can tap into maximizing that fear of something, but keep it in the ring, so to speak, it's it's a very fun thing to do. And you can really tell some, I don't know, like I like some dark shit. Like I didn't realize
Yeah.
it, but I it's not necessarily shocking, like visually dark, but I like to write about the evil that men do, and
Mhm.
why, it's more why they do what they do. And that's I think that's the scariest thing of all, because
Yeah.
that can be any of us, or it can happen
Mhm.
to any of us. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just horror is fun.
Mhm. And there's another one here that's uh called Suffocate with Tight Places. Of course, you don't
Yep.
have to have tight places, but just in general, when you see a lot of, I mean, we'll go off with a horror movie, Halloween, where you have her hiding in the closet with a coat hanger, you know, you're not going anywhere while hiding in that closet. So you have to prepare yourself to fight and hope that you're not going to be pinned against this wall and you could get out by pushing them or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's the good thing about horror is that with your victims or even the hero that's gonna, take down the killer or whatnot, you want to set up places where that person's gonna not gonna feel familiar. And even if they're in a big house and they're in like the living room or whatever, and it's a big open space, to them, they're still gonna feel afraid and suffocated because they don't know where they're at and they don't know if the next step they're going to take is going to be an exit out to outside or a dead end. So,
Cujo is a textbook on suffocation.
mhm,
Um, you have the main character's son who's trapped in this car with his mom with this giant rabid dog outside. It literally having an like the air is literally ending in him, and it's hot. And again, I think I said it when we were doing dinosaurs versus Mars bots. You can tell people
mhm,
who have been hot before. You can tell
yeah,
people who've been hot in a car before. Like Gary kind of nailed it with the two detectives in the first 1975. Like when they were in that car, like you could feel the heat. Um, and again, in Cujo, you could feel how hot and disgusting that little
mhm,
Ford Pinto was, with that rabid dog on the outside and her son
yeah,
suffocating on the inside. Just like whenever you say suffocating, or whenever anybody says suffocating is like a tool in horror, that's that's the money right there.
mhm,
Yeah, but
for
look,
sure.
Chase, look at how big the hotel in The Shining is. And it's
Mhm.
also got that same tense, tight vibe to it.
And ooh, what's
Panic Room is an yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that
no, it definitely did. Yeah.
yeah, and that goes into the next topic, which would the next one would be Disorient Reality. You know, where a lot of horror movie stories take place in a hospital, or the characters are losing a grip of reality because they don't know where they're at. And sometimes even The Shining is a perfect example because everything looks weird to you in those scenes because usually some go back to the whole kids room during the day your room looks different than it does at night, and if you could find a way to play with the reader's mind to have like these different settings where they look different every time you turn the page because you're trying to set up that jump scare and everything, that's
Yep.
great. Perfect
That's
example.
that's a
Where you could
thousand
literally
percent.
exactly, where you're
That's
literally
us. Yep.
taking the craze, you're taking the environment and making it into
Nah, never too
horror
late. What's
as
going
well.
on, man?
Hey,
How's it
what's
going,
up?
man?
Appreciate you guys.
Yeah,
Never too late.
never too late. But no, like you were saying earlier about thinking like a kid, it's like
Hmm.
kids in the dark are built to bend reality. Like it's
Yeah.
exactly what you were saying. That pile of clothes on that chair becomes like a gangly arm monster. Like you
Yeah.
even see it move. You see it move,
Hmm.
or the shadow on the wall from the tree outside. Like it's all there. Like it's it's such a cool thing. Like it's horror has the best instruments. You know what I mean? It's like learning
Yeah,
how
it
to use
does.
it's like learning how to use a drum machine.
Yeah. And but that's what's awesome about it, you have all these different elements and you have superheroes and stuff, but I say it all the time. You have so many when you say horror, there's literally horror the genre, but then there's the subgenres. You have the slasher horror, you have the supernatural horror, you have like the uh psychedelic like cult horror,
Yeah.
all these different
Yeah.
types of horrors that you could play off of, and they're each different in their own way
Yep.
that
Yeah, they
gives
all
you that
stand
jump
up on their
scare
own.
and not
Yeah.
make you want to sleep at night.
Right. Yeah. It's like Blair Witch Project, which a lot of people don't find scary, at the time was
Hmm.
one. It's given me the most scared feeling, I think, in a movie.
Hmm.
But also The Exorcist. Two totally different
Yeah.
movies, totally different types of horror,
Hmm.
but they both stand up on their own. Like they're both horror. Midsummer looks nothing like Halloween, like any of the Halloween movies, but they're both
Yeah.
horror. It's just like you said, it's as you wish almost. Like
Hmm.
I'll make a run at making anything scary. Like I can make 100-meter dash scary. So
Yeah. But
like it's up to what you want to do.
yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. I mean, I know this was kind of be a like a short episode, but you know, I think we talked about quite a bit. I mean, do you have anything to add on?
No, I think that's all good. Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah,
Um
for sure.
one day we'll have to talk about why I think that I don't know, maybe you guys think so too, but why the
Hmm.
Joker falls into that realm of the line between horror and thriller. I think it's an intention. Like I would definitely consider Misery more of a horror than a
Hmm.
thriller because she didn't want to kill him, but she would do everything but to not have him leave. But in
Yeah.
a thriller, it's like the you are set out to either hide a murder or
Hmm.
commit a murder. And like that wasn't her intention until she realized she wasn't gonna get what she wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. That's what I think. But I got a baby brain. You might think something totally different,
No,
Ronnie.
no, I definitely agree. I mean, it's just like with the mystery theater, you know, those are perfect examples of thrillers where you even if you go to like a dinner theater where it's a mystery dinner theater and someone's dead and you're trying to figure out who the killer is before they're picking off all the other people. I mean, that's scary if you were in that real predicament, you don't know what you would do because you don't know if you're going to be next to be killed. But it just still has that thriller aspect instead of like the whole like horror aspect that just takes it to a whole new level.
Sure.
If you kind of
Yep.
get what I'm saying.
Yep. I do. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to maybe we'll have to build one of my like
Mhm.
inconsistent little fall breaker roundtables about the
Yeah.
Joker. But yeah, man, like that movie has some depth to it. It's like one of those lasagna cakes in Chicago.
Hmm.
It's got layers on layers. To me, anyway,
Yeah.
I loved it. Fear or dread would equal horror. Excitement or agitation or exhilaration would be a thriller, maybe. Yep.
I mean, it's a good question. It really is.
No. Yeah, Joker. Yeah, it's definitely existential horror,
Yeah.
but it's that movie. I love that movie.
Hmm.
Like I loved it. Like even the things that people were outraged about why they used it make total sense. So I don't know. We'll have to if y'all ever want to talk about it, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it one day.
I mean, there could be at one point where we could literally talk about the what last week's episode of What If with the Marvel zombies. That was a horror in its
Yeah,
way.
that was, but so was the Doctor Strange
Oh
episode.
yeah, that was
Okay, so Gary, you're here. Ronnie, you're here. And you're probably somebody I would ask this to. Probably Chase, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you watch What If, the Doctor Strange episode, do y'all think that his universe turned into like a Infinity Stone at the end, like when it was just him, like trapped into this little tiny thing? It looked like a gem, and I wonder if like that is maybe how like Infinity Stones are built. Horrors and thrillers for me are more like tall. I just need to be put into a bra. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Blade Runner was a cyberpunk thriller,
Hmm.
but which movie am I thinking of? Is it Scanners? That kind of, I think it was Scanners. That to me
Oh
fell
yeah, the guy
more
with
into
the psychic powers that could blow up people's heads. Yeah,
yeah, that was definitely to me was more of a horror like that, like, but they had the same vibe.
some person.
What's up, some person?
Yeah, it was just a severed head. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, let me see.
Gary thinks of me as like the kooky old Marvel man. Like I'm like I'm like I have a method, Gary. Like I see what I see. I
Yeah,
can't
I could see
control it.
that, Chase. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're gonna. It's almost what 44 in.
Yep.
I think. I mean, like I said, do you have any other topic where you could like talk about? Well, a tip that you could talk about that's a good established part for writing horror.
Um, if you think something is scary, even if it's like super duper dark,
Hmm.
like just write it. Like writing it is better than anything else. And like you might be onto something. And it might not even be what you think it is. So like
Yeah.
if you write, I would say if you want to write horror, and it's something that I'm actively learning,
Hmm.
you have to take all the breaks off sometimes. And you just have to, if you have a story to tell, you just got to go for it.
Yeah, for
If you don't
sure.
like it at the end, then that's that. But you gotta write it.
Hmm. And that's the good thing too. Like he's saying, there if you want to write horror for teenagers and adults, you could go with that route. But a perfect example for a person who wants to write horror for kids, R.L. Stein. He's in the past has made really, really good horror books where literally now they're movies and they're based and aimed towards kids. Just go out there and if you want to go with the route with that type of horror writing, just buy his books and read how he describes stuff in an innocent way, but in a creepy way as well.
Yep. And I think that the last part of Gary's comment nailed it. It's like you feel horror. Like it's not getting scared. Yes. Yes, Gary. Like you
True that.
I totally hear you, and you are 100% right. And that's the part that I feel like gets missed sometimes under all the guts and gore is that's not necessarily horror. Like it's part of it, but you know, there's
I mean, I don't know for anyone, but how many times you're like brushing your teeth, or you have the door open, and you swear at the corner of your eye somebody walked by. You know, it happens. It happens. Even no matter how old you get, sometimes that imagination of yours will think of something crazy.
Yeah. So just real quick, I'm sorry, Ronnie. I know you want to get off, but
no, it's fine.
I was just kind of toying in my head with a story the other day, and I think that like this is like perfectly like kind of syncs what I love about horror is like just a couple like joking back and forth with each other, like in the bathroom attached to their bedroom, and maybe the one partner pops the other one with a towel, which makes them slip and hit their head on the toilet. And then it's like just this scene of like shock of one partner unconscious and the other person being responsible for it. And then blip, like now you're back into regular reality where none of that happened. And it's like, that's horror because like that's anxiety, right? And like anxiety is real. And it's like these intrusive thoughts that people have, like they're real. And it's like it dominates their day. And like I feel like that's the approach to take with horror, because I like to say that like if I can relate to somebody with my writing, then I can get them to read what I'm writing. And so exactly. Yeah. The heart pumping fast because you almost got in an accident, and then the phone call, like the dead silence when you hear somebody else take that phone call. Like the phone call sucks, and that's horror. And for sure, very good point, Gary. Like you should have been on tonight, dude. Like this is our 50th episode birthday. Like
right?
Like very good points, guys. Thank you for like chiming in. Like this is 50 episodes, and I'm like I feel like the audience was engaged tonight. Like,
which I like that.
Yeah, y'all were all the guest hosts today, because I think everybody said something that had some substance, and it's
for sure.
That just makes it all the better, guys. Like
the Halloween show, man. Yeah. I gotta talk to Scott and Josh, see if they could stop on by a Halloween show. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be cool.
And when I was talking to Jason, we will keep on reviewing American Vampire, but instead of like doing one whole giant volume like every single week, we'll break it up where we'll do the American Vampire like this week, but then the next week we'll do a one-off issue of an indie book, because when you have a big volume like American Vampire, that's 20 issues, and that's over 200 something pages. That's a lot. And I don't think one person or even us wants to go through that whole thing, and that's all we review for like the next 20 episodes.
Can we do that, Ronnie? Like, can we turn in classic monster fan art for the Halloween show? Because that would give me something. That would give me something awesome to kind of like do as a warm up Like,
Mhm.
are we assigning each other characters? Can I just pick one? Like, what do we want to do?
I don't know. We'll figure that out when I find out who's all able to make it.
Yeah.
But I definitely want us to try to draw some classic monsters.
Okay. I'll use that as one of my warm ups. Like when
But
I get some.
also, besides American Vampire, Jason knows this. Gary hasn't noticed know this, but there are two people out there who had contacted us who wants us to review their books and to bring them on the show. So I'm gonna try to see if one of them could come on next week. And it's just great that more people are messaging. Hey, I hear that you do book reviews and you talk about horror. You mind having me on and reviewing my book? Heck yeah, bring it on. I like more people. I like more people, and I like the fact that more people are like, saying, "Hey, I like what you're doing. I want to be a part of one of the episodes." So I
Yep.
appreciate all the love. I appreciate everyone in the chat tonight. You know, giving their view and opinion. Just really love how lately the the comments and everyone has been engaging
Yeah.
in the
We
episodes.
appreciate
Just really
y'all.
great.
Yep.
So we'll
Thanks for
see.
being patient with me last week, Ronnie, when my power went out right before we went on.
Oh, that's
But
fine,
we got to
man.
make up for it this week.
Well, that's why I'm happy that Gary was able to be on last week because,
Right?
it would have been just
Yeah.
difficult by myself.
Yeah, we were in the queue, man. Like we were
Yeah.
ready to go.
Mhm. But y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Take care. Have a good night.